These are control arms for a 2008 Dodge Grand Caravan SXT. I originally changed the ball joint out to try to save some money, and I ended up pulling it back out. And here's why. So when you get the original one out, it's a press fit. That means you're gonna have to have a press to press this out, which ain't a big deal, but the way it's offset, it's very difficult. So I decided to take a torch and I heated it up, which a lot of people don't have a torch, or at least an oxygen acetylene torch, and knocked it out. So when I put the new one in, it obviously, from heating it up, it felt kind of janky. And you put the snap ring in it, and it's all pressed metal. It's just rolled metal. So in a couple weeks, I got this. So then I get complaints from the missus, hey, there's a clunking sound, is everything okay? And I guess technically it is okay, but it's not okay to me. So I ended up buying the precision control arm from O'Reilly's, and it's built a little bit better, because when I pulled it out, when I pulled the original one out, I noticed that the way the rear bushing was set up, oh, by the way, this is the driver's side. So the rear bushing was cracked, but it was in good shape. But the new one is solid, which tells you something about what they decided to change on it. And on the driver's side, if you decide to pull it out, it's a little tricky. On this bolt here on the front, I had to jack the engine up just enough to get that bolt out, because that bolt head, what's the bolt? The bolt head crashes on the engine, so it's very difficult to get out. So I just applied a little bit of pressure to the engine, and it raised the engine up just enough to get that bolt out. And when I put the castle nut on this one, that was another problem. The castle nut is way below, when it tightens up, it's way below the pin. So when I put the pin in, it didn't even go on the castle nut. So the new one has a proper lock nylon nut. And another thing is that when you go to tighten this up, sometimes this will spin on you, and they were smart enough to put an Allen socket on top, but this one does not have one. But I didn't have a lot of trouble getting the castle nut on, but with the nylon nut, it's going to want to grip this fitting and spin it, possibly. So, all right, I've got it in, and basically after wrestling with it, because it's so new and the bushings are much tighter than the old ones, what I ended up doing is I put the rear one in first, and then that way I could bend it and get it below the anti-sway bar. So you don't have to remove the anti-sway bar. You get down under there, and then once you get it into the or near the front socket, it's going to be a little difficult. So I put the ball joint in. And then got the nut on it, and then I was able to wrestle with the front one. It's pretty tight. So I ended up once I got it in, this bolt doesn't want to line up exactly. It wants to push down because of the force that's on the rear one. And you can see my rear bolt's still sticking out. I'm wrestling with it. And I use pry bars and a mallet and beating and banging on it. And then holding pressure on the nut and or the bolt, and that should line up. And it took me about 15 minutes, but I got it in there. And now I got to get the rear one. And it's going to be a trouble, because you can see the load that's on that bushing, and the bushing up top. Yeah, you can see how it's it's off just a little bit. Okay, after wrestling with it a little bit, I got inventive, and instead of trying to be on the bottom of the bolt with a hammer, I just put my old Ford jack in there, and then put a little pressure on it, and then you can see the head starting to poke up. Put my Shade Tree Mechanic drill bit on there, and it's got a load on it. There it went. And there it is. See, I boogered the threads up a little bit, but that's good. I'll keep that nut on there. Scrape the fender, or the frame there a little bit. And I keep in mind also, this thing has somewhat of an adjustment for alignment, but not much, so I don't think you'll have too much problems with the alignment after you put it in.